Dan, good afternoon. Good to see you.
How are you?
Doing well, doing well. It's a busy, packed morning here in
Yeah.
Toronto. How do you plan for these like spikes in the work, or it just happens and you have to deal with it?
It just happens. I mean, our accountant said to us this week, he was like, I'm a bit worried about you guys, to be honest. There's you're making money and all the rest of it, but there's zero processes. And he did think when he first took it on, he was like, I will be. I think his exact quote was, "I will be watching this account with pure fear." So our accountant is scared of this account. I don't know if it's a thing or a bad thing, but.
You're obviously not a process person by any stretch.
No, not at all, mate. And Dino, my business partner, isn't much more of a process person either. So it's yes, it's not great for process over here. I think one of our major hires probably in the next 6 months is going to be someone coming in and bossing me and Dino about and making sure that we kind of stick to some sort of process and whatever else. But for now, it works. I think because of the level of clients we've got, we're kind of at that. I think we're at that tipping point now where we're making enough money that it's profitable and things are going well, and but at the same time we can get away with fucking up quite a bit and forgetting to do things and not being as organised. And you'll have noticed over the past week the fact that how long it takes to book meetings in with me and how many emails I forget. And I'm pretty sure I forgot about our first call, didn't I?
Uh,
Which I think we can get away with that for now. But I think in the next couple of months we
mhm.
start to make more money. We've got to get someone in who knows what they're doing. Uh,
That obviously that makes sense. So you don't really. How many folks right now do you have on the team?
so we have there's four core, and then we've got a little team of freelancers as well. So writers, videographers, designers that we use depending on what the project is.
Right.
Um, yeah, it's a weird time. I mean, we have been looking to take on, but because the market's so volatile at the minute and anything can go wrong at any point. The last thing I want to do is employ some more people and then we have to something goes wrong and we have to let them go. I mean, it's not fair on people, especially in this time. So we've got to be really careful. So I'd rather use freelancers because in that respect for bigger projects it means we can chop and change and we can drop them when we need to. But hopefully things will stabilize a little bit next year. We can start actually hiring again and ramping up because we do need to. Like I say, we're on that tipping point now
Mhm.
where work's getting a little bit too much. People are stretched. Everyone's working late hours. We're at that point where we're probably going to have to do it, bite the bullet. Sooner rather than
Right.
later.
Right.
Should do it.
I've read a lot of I've read a lot of ebooks and a lot of PDFs, and none of them started with the first line. Your content is probably shit.
True though, isn't it?
Is it more of hey, I'm going to like develop this brand, or this is me as a person, and I'm just going to roll with it.
It's a little bit of both, to be honest, mate. I think it started as like this is just me as a person. I'm not very good at not being myself, and I think anyone in here and mates will tell you the same thing. Is that when I'm happy, you know about it. When I'm pissed off, you know about it. And when I'm sad, you know about it. When I'm angry, you know about it. I can't. I'm not very good at hiding emotions. I'm also not very good at lying. My lies are see through, so everyone can pretty much point out whenever I'm fibbing. Um, but and it kind of started out just being me, and I think it's developed now into more of looking what the market wants to see because you realise that right, you know what, being myself and swearing and having this tone of voice works. That's the area that we'll kind of develop into and grow the brand into. So it's taking a part of my personality and just kind of elevating it to build a brand around it. But it's not necessarily just me anymore. Offended is much more than that. It just plays on the parts that have worked for me in the past.
And when you start, do you just start in and see, hey, like whoever is going to attract, or do you have already a certain type of folks in mind that will probably resonate with the style?
We know more about it now. Basically, you know, just if you're not a dickhead, we can probably work with you. But I think it's been very good at weeding people out that we don't want to work with. What still surprises me though, and it surprises both myself and Dino, is every time I do a piece of content and we slag, a type of person off, I like to slag off old white gammons, old white men who are a bit stuck in the ways and stuck in the past, and I like to kind of rib them a little bit. But the amount of leads that we get through from those individuals is astonishing. It's almost like they don't see themselves as that. It turns out the gammons aren't very self-aware, which is weird. But it's done a good job of filtering out the people we don't want to work with. We're very lucky in that most of the work that we get to do is with brands that want to push boundaries. We are not the company, and we never wanted to be the company that goes into brands and does a fucking dry company corporate video with a load of talking heads or like potatoes in suits. It's never been the type of thing and project that we want to work on. I'd literally rather, piss on my own face than do that, to be honest.
Right. Do you have times when people are attracted with your content on LinkedIn, for example, and they want to work with you, but then their brand is too boring? Like their brand is just something that you don't like. It's not really what you do.
Yeah, it's a dual thing because I always say that like some of the driest industries are the most exciting to work in, right? So we're a bit weird, we love cybersecurity, right? And we love it because it's such a shit industry when it comes to content.
Yeah,
that it doesn't take much to stand out, right? And we love doing stuff like that. It's really, really easy for us to do stuff that has impact because they've never done anything. It's just all the same dry, boring shit, right? But on the other side of things as well, if there is a brand that we just think we can't help, either because the person who runs it is a knob, or because we don't like the products, we wouldn't buy it ourselves or whatever, or we don't think it's got legs, say it's a new startup, or we don't agree with the ways that they do business and things, the way that they market themselves, and then we won't work with them. Particularly if people have really strict rules on what they will and won't do, and a lot of companies, particularly the bigger corporates, have really, really strict brand guidelines, and their marketing team don't even really act like a marketing team anymore. What they do is they just act like the brand group. That's basically their job. And it actually holds back, what it is that we're trying to do, and that's put boundaries. So people like that we won't work with either.
Do you evaluate folks like, hey, like how much they would allow you to do, or you just they already see your work, they already know your style when they come in, and they know what to expect, so like you don't really have like a formal points or something like evaluation?
Not really. I mean, mine's just do I like your products and does it excite me, and do I think I could do something cool in it, and are you a dickhead or not? And they're my two questions. But the interesting thing is, we've grown this agency solely on inbound leads, right? We have never, ever done any sales activity. We have never, ever done any outreach. We have brought in everything that everyone that comes to us as an inbound lead. So inbound leads tend to be so much easier to work with because there's no sell. We don't have to explain to them why we're good at what we do. They came to us. And how we did that, I don't have a fucking clue, mate. People always ask me, how do I get inbound leads like you do? I really don't know. I don't know how we did it. But we just, we put our piece of content and we might get 5 leads, and we'll probably close one of them. And that happens week in, week out. And we're almost trying to hold back on some of the content we push out as well, because at one point we're growing too quickly. And when you've got 2 lads running an agency that don't have a fucking clue what they're doing, that can be really dangerous.
Of course. Oh, absolutely. Yes. I mean, especially trying to outsource some of the work that you probably can't handle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Would that be LinkedIn and some other channels, or?
No, we only use LinkedIn. So we do a lot of work on other channels for the other companies. So we do a lot of creative on, people think that we're just a LinkedIn agency. We're not. We do tons of shit on Instagram. We've done bits on Twitter. We do stuff we've done billboard campaigns, outdoor stuff. So, but I'm a big believer in, especially if you're a small company, get good at one thing. And if you've got one channel and you grow one channel, and you're getting enough leads through that channel, you don't have to spread yourself thin over all the other channels, right? Marketing agencies. How many marketing agencies do you look at that are shit at marketing themselves? The simple reason is they haven't got time to. and yet they've got 4 social channels open, and they've just spread themselves really thin across the social channels, and it's shit. But if you look at like YouTubers, right, and you look at these kids who grew themselves on Instagram early, and the TikTokers and stuff, they grow really big on one channel first, and then only then do they transfer their audience over. Because it's easy, because you've got an audience here, and you go, oh, by the way, guys, I'm going to be on this channel too, and quite a
Right.
go over, right? That's how you do it. That's the smart way of doing it. Trying to grow, no marketing team, right? I don't give a fuck if you've got 6 here, right, in your corporate, or no marketing agency has time to master 4 channels, 4 social media channels. It's fucking ridiculous. So get good at one, get the leads through, and that's what we do. LinkedIn's our channel. It doesn't mean that we don't operate on other channels. I'd love to grow our other channels, but in all truth, mate, we just don't have time.
But I mean, you probably have more. You have more clients that you can cope with. So like, it's not about like why would you get another channel right now, right?
Exactly, and I'm sick of clients. Sick of more.
What about tell me about so building the audience on LinkedIn. Let's say you're a small business and you start working from a profile of the CEO or somebody who's high up in the company. How much time do you think it will take to get enough audience to then start pushing content that people start seeing, maybe on a reasonable scale?
You know what? I mean, the 2 channels that you can do this on very, very quickly are, at the minute, are LinkedIn and TikTok, right? Instagram's a real struggle. If you haven't already got a follower on there, or you can't buy, I don't have enough money to buy a channel that's already got a following, then you're really going to struggle, right? But LinkedIn and TikTok are 2 places that you can go viral with fuck all followers. We've taken on people that have got about 800 to 1,000 followers on LinkedIn. And we've had posts that have gotten the thousands of likes and tons of leads coming in, right? You can do that, and that's a beautiful thing. They're going to lock that down eventually, because there is no way on earth they're going to let people keep doing that and having that free, this amazing opportunity. But they're going to do something, the rules will come in. But then there'll be another channel that you can use that'll have the same thing. It's just a progression. It's like kind of like where Facebook was, like 5 years ago or whatever. Right. It's the same with TikTok. So, but for LinkedIn, it's the best thing is just figure out what your voice is and how you're going to post original content. Stop nicking people's content. It's shit. Stop posting dribble. Stop over posting as well. People think you've got to post. If you say post every day, nobody is that creative to be able to post something meaningful every day. And if people say they are, they're full of shit. Like, honestly, the amount of people, I think I told you about this the other day.
You did, yeah.
I've kind of been doing this now on LinkedIn for maybe 5 years, right? We're going up and down and up and down. But it's constantly high engagement, right? But I'm lucky, I might post 2 to 4 times a month. That's it, right? And you've got all these people, and you'll have these dips, and it's like a 6-month peak. So you have a load of new LinkedIn influencers pop up, where they're all getting all these, thousands of likes and whatever, and they've all got this authentic voice or whatever, right? And they're posting every single day, and they get giddy, and they think they're this fucking big superstar. And then 6 months' time, it dries up because they've been posting every day. Everyone's sick of the sight of them. And guess what? They're not that interesting. They've run out of things to say, because none of us are that interesting, right? You haven't got that many things to say that you can talk about something meaningful every day, right? And then in another 6 months, you see the next set of influencers rise, and then they pop up and obviously do the same thing. But like, honestly, the biggest tip on LinkedIn is don't fucking overpost. You're better off with 1 post a month, right? That hits the mark with your target audience, gets a ton of the right engagement, brings in loads of conversations. Because it's not just the content that's important, right? 50% is the content that brings in the engagement of the right people. The next 50% is dealing with the outcome of that, right? So the people that come to you. So you should be spending the rest of the month having conversations with those people, trying to develop them into customers. And that's what people miss. People think it's all about the content. It's not. It's just as much about the follow-up. So the biggest tip on LinkedIn is don't overpost.
What do you think about, so let's say maybe you have 1,000, let's say you have 1,000 followers, so like a profile that is not developed at all. Would you say it would be all about the hook, then the story, then the twist, and then that's the post structure that you have? That might seem reasonably simple, like, oh yeah, I get it. But then to find the right mix and to find like a really good hook, not like a bullshit hook, like it's pretty hard, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the hook is the most important skill anyone can learn, right? The amount of copywriters that we get in, or we use on freelance, who are great writers, but no one reads the shit because they don't understand that because people think that like a title that hooks people in or a line that hooks people in is clickbait, right? No, clickbait is just a bullshit line that you put out there that drags people into something that doesn't match what you were saying in the first place, right? So people get pissed off at it. A hook isn't clickbait. A hook is, you know, a polarizing or impactful or funny sentence or title or whatever that drags people in, and then they're chuffed to bits because when they then read the content matches it. The content's just as funny and it's just as valuable and they get something from it. It's been done since the dawn of time. Like, hooks have been used since the dawn of advertising, right? And it still amazes me how 99.99999% of fucking marketers and writers still don't know, or either aren't aware of them or can't write them. And it's a skill everyone should try and get good at. That first sentence of every social media post, or that title, or that thumbnail of your video, master that first. That's what will drive views.
Right. How do you, Dan, how do you find these ideas? How do you find these things that are strong enough? Because I find, like, for example, when I post on LinkedIn, I do have a challenge of like finding something that is really, really has enough depth, you know, not just some like trend that is just like, oh, this happened and there's not much analysis that you can do. Is it more about having enough imagination, understanding how you could twist it around, or something else?
It's difficult, mate, honestly, and you know, there'll be a lot of marketers that get pissed off at me for saying this, but most people's ideas are shit, because having ideas is a skill in itself, right? People think that everyone wants to have ideas, right? Because it feels good when one of your ideas is put into practice. The reason your ideas aren't being put into practice at work is because they're shit, right? You're not an ideas person. It doesn't matter. It's a skill. Certain people have it, certain people don't. That's why I always say that all creatives aren't creatives. You know, people who call themselves creatives. You're a creative if you can come up with an idea or a narrative that, you know, your target audience completely relate to, and that drives massive engagement, and that, you know, drives results for the business, whatever that may be. Like, that's a creative, right? But then the other people, like, you've got really, really technically good writers or videographers or illustrators, and they're not creatives, they're illustrators, because they've got shit ideas, but they can execute the ideas of the creators really, really well. Two different skill sets. Most creatives aren't creatives, you're executors. Your ideas are shit. Your ideas will never be good, because your ideas, that is a skill in itself, and it's not a bad thing. This isn't me slagging them off. It's okay to have shit ideas. You're just not an ideas person. But what you need to do then is, and that's why if you're really struggling with your own marketing, you need to either go and find an ideas person to work with, or you need to go to an agency where they've got a good ideas person, or you need to bring a good ideas person in-house. It's a business. It's a skill, and it's a really undervalued skill. So when people tell you it's all about the execution, it's not about the idea, that's completely utter bullshit. People have got that completely twisted.
Yeah.
You know, a great idea with average execution will always outdo a shit idea with brilliant execution.
What when you are coming up with posts, then let's say for a client, what do you look for to get the ideas or to find ideas? What's some of the kind of like, I mean, you did talk about the fact that you like fiction and it's just more of like a conceptual stuff, but like for specific business and the audience, what do you look for? Maybe read, go through, maybe talk to people. What do you normally would do?
So the biggest thing is basically look at everything that exists in whatever industry it is you're trying to create ideas for. Look at everything that already exists and don't do that. Right? That's step one. Right? Scratch all out. It's already been done. Put it all out. Look at other industries that have nothing to do with that industry and see what they're doing really well, because you can nick things and shoehorn your industry into them. That works really well. We've done really bizarre stuff, and the more bizarre it gets, the better it does for some reason. I don't know why. It seems to work really well when you shoehorn something into, say, cybersecurity or recruitment or, you know, tech that really shouldn't be there. You know, we just made a recruitment app do a Grease parody for recruitment, and that comes next week, and it's absolutely rubbish, mate. It'll probably do well. But it's kind of like, just look outside of what that industry does. Just don't stick to what everyone else does. I can't stand these people that look at competitors and go, oh, I want to be like that. No, you don't. You want to be yourself. You want to be you. Like, you don't want to be like them, because then you've just got you've either got two of the same, or you're a shit version of what they're doing. So,
right.
You know, kind of look outside of that, and like I say, like I do, read a lot. Read a hell of a lot. Watch a lot of films. you'll get weird ideas.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, I noticed that when I follow like YouTubers, like like just like YouTubers that have nothing to do with marketing, you get these weird ideas that are completely unrelated, but I've seen that people like that. Like even if we talk about camera angles or the way that you talk about the story, the way that you start your story, it works. But then it's like done well on YouTube, but nobody does it on LinkedIn. So it's like you're saying, it's like that carryover is interesting.
it's fascinating. But I tell you what is happening. There is a new wave, and there are two, a real break in the people over here that are sat here still thinking that the working world has to be, professionalism is all about three-piece suits and white blokes in boardrooms fingering each other's bumholes, right? And you've got these guys over here, like me, that have got tattoos, swear a lot, like like the team over here that believe that professionalism is all about doing a good job, right? No matter what you look like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
How you look, doesn't matter, right? But these guys over here, what they're not doing, and some of these guys over here, they're not looking at what does well on other channels. It doesn't have to be business related. How's that kid grown his YouTube, right? Or if you're in B2B and you sell office stationery, why aren't you looking over here and thinking, how's that fashion brand got that massive TikTok following? How can we do that for office stationery, right? No one's doing that. They're all sat there going, oh, well, I don't really know what to do. I mean, what's everyone else in office stationery doing? It's shit. Like you look outside of what other people are doing, and that's where you get ideas. But the things that have nothing to do with your industry, you don't even have to be business related. Look at all the kids on the channels on TikTok, right? And I was going to say, watch the kids, but that sounds like you're a paedophile. Don't be a paedophile, but watch the kids appropriately. And that's what
To be honest, that's actually the reason why I started the podcast, or I rebranded the podcast, because I realized that if you just follow folks, let's say just great marketers, then you're always limited to their perspective, to their view of the world. That is so limited. That is just and to based on what they've read, and most of them read just business books. And maybe some old copywriting books, which are great, but then that's really the boundaries that they set. Versus I've seen folks at TikTok and on Instagram, they're doing really weird things. And I have seen very, very few people who tried it in business that actually they do deliver results. I'm like, hey, like, why don't we just talk to those people and figure out if there are ideas that we could bring up? Because otherwise we're, like you said, we're just in this really bubble, in a small B2B or B2C bubble.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And you know what as well, the other the caveat of this whole thing is, right, everything that I've just said might be complete and utter bullshit for you or for anyone else, just because I've said this is the way it works and this is the way it works for me, doesn't mean it's going to work that way for you. So take everything that everyone says, including me, with a pinch of salt, and just try and find your own way and try different things, because there'll be a lot of people that listen to this and think, God, he's full of shit, because I've done this different and it worked for me. So
Right.
And that's fine as well, because everything that we're throwing out is all subjective. That's the thing about marketing, isn't it? That's why everyone can be an armchair marketer. We're not brain surgeons. Everyone can have an opinion on it because it's just subjective. And actually, a lot of marketing is just fucking guesswork, regardless of what these, kind of analytical types will tell you. There's only so far you can go with it, because human nature is so unpredictable.
Yeah.
Marketing is guesswork. It's just all subjective. So maybe this whole podcast is bollocks.
do you think when let's say you create a post and you have a structure, let's say you definitely want to have a hook, regardless of whatever you do, you definitely want to have a hook. The structure that follows after, would that be totally something you can experiment with, you could play around with it? But
as long as the content, the only purpose of content, I'll say this time and again, the only purpose of content, right, is to make your audience feel something. Even if that's anger, right? If you want to piss them off, right, whatever. But it's just to make them feel something, so that it opens up a conversation. Conversations, it's just a conversation starter, because conversations lead to sales eventually. That's all it is. It's just opening up a narrative between your customer and your business. And they feel something, they get what you're saying, and it's going to eventually drive them to do something. And then eventually you can start slipping in, calls to action in there. But the people who try and put calls to action on everything and make, their marketing product based all the time, they're the people that fail, because you're trying to sell to people who literally couldn't give a shit about you. Get them emotionally attached first, whether that's humour, whether it's, impactful stuff, or whatever it may be. And then, once you've created that value, it doesn't really matter how you do it. There's so many different ways to do that. then you can start asking something of them.
Right.
You
How
know,
do
is
you
it our product, you know, whatever.
how do you make sure that you hit the right audience? Let's say you want to maybe talk to VPs of marketing, or VPs of sales. How do you tailor your content to them? Do you look at their interests? Do you look at maybe things that they liked on Facebook that are outside of their business, and then say, oh, maybe I can take some of the ideas from there and then kind of apply it in my post? How do you make sure that, hey, like we're hitting the certain level of interest from this audience?
I mean, I'd hope that if you were selling to an audience, you know them. That's one thing I'd hope as a starting point. I'd be very concerned about someone setting up a business to sell to an audience that they know nothing about. Right, that always goes wrong.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's research, a lot of it's talking to them. So you'll talk to your customers a lot, or you should do. You know, audience profiling is the way you should start every marketing campaign. If you want to profile your audience, figure out who it is you're trying to speak to. That's one thing. But then it's just a case of getting stuff out there. So I always say, like, we always say, like, we're a strategy second agency. Actually, we're a strategy fucking 6th or 7th, right? We don't develop a strategy up front, because if you spend fucking 6 weeks, you're developing a strategy, especially if you haven't really sold into the marketing. You know, you kind of know your audience, but it's a new business or it's a new product and you're not sure whether they'll like it, and you start developing a marketing strategy for the next 6 weeks, 6 months, whatever. It's all based on your opinion and maybe a few fucking questionnaires or whatever, but questionnaires are normally shit, because people will just answer questions because they feel obliged to, whether that answer's right or not. Right. And what they do is then that you know, it's all based on opinion. They'll execute whatever it is they put in that market strategy, and it bombs. You've just wasted 6 weeks, 6 months. It's a massive loss making exercise to the business. But you'll find out so much more if you start to come up with content ideas. Come up with a plan, of course, but execute stuff as quickly as possible. Get it out there, because the only opinion that matters is that of your target audience. Your opinion doesn't really matter. So you start to learn what they like by putting things out there. But you've got to try so many. That's why ideas are so important, because you've got to try so many different ideas. If this idea bombs this campaign, scrap it. It doesn't matter about that. Go on to the next one. What about this one? And eventually you might have to do 20, but you might find 1 or 2 things that really bang. They love it. It's different. And now you can start crafting a strategy around it. It becomes a living, breathing thing. Like, the world moves too quickly nowadays to be fucking around with fucking 60-page strategy documents.
No, I agree. So would that be as simple as, hey, we'll just put a list of ideas and let's just pick 3 that we think are really cool and our audience would resonate, and let's just ship it and see what happens?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Anything has to be perfect. Perfection's bollocks, right? You know, you've got kids, dyslexic kids in the bedroom who, you know, can't spell, and you know, who have got blogs that are out doing Oxford educated copywriters, right? You've got kids in the bedroom doing videos on the phone for TikTok who have larger audiences, and they're getting more results and making more money than you know, senior videographers who've worked at fucking McCann for the last 10 years. You know, this is the world we live in now. So perfection doesn't matter. It's not about perfection. It's not about the spelling. It's not about the execution. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about how fast can you get it out, how different is it, and how much are you going to learn when you analyze it from your audience. And they're the important things, because once you've got that, that's, you know, if you've got a kid, like say, sat in his bedroom, some teenager dribbling on himself, doing some pretty funny TikTok videos, right? And he's banging out 5 pieces of content in the time that you fucked around doing a 6-week strategy. The amount he's learned about the audience, you both attacking the same audience. The amount he's learned about the audience is so much more than you have, whilst you've just been, you know, thinking about pulling your Willie and trying to guess what they want to see. And that's kind of the difference, and that's the world we live in now. And anybody who's still marketing in that way, the old strategy way, you're an idiot.
I love it. As controversial as it is, I actually agree. I do agree with that because I've been on both sides. I've been on the side that you just described. I've been on the other side, and I've experienced that.
Out of all swear words, I like the word.
What do you think, Dan? What do you think? I'm curious. So we have a webinar format, been there for years. You know, you just jump on the call, do a Q&A, you do polls, and you leave. You have podcasts, pretty much one-way conversation. You don't really talk to an audience necessarily. What do you think, what are some of the ways that you think you as an agency, or you can mix it up in a different way maybe take a podcast, put it into a series, or take some of the bits of the podcast, take some of the B-roll, mix it up into a funny clip. Like, how do you think about existing formats in a different way?
100%, mate. I mean, the only thing that matters is asking yourself, are we doing this for the sake of it? Which a lot of people do. Because of Gary Vee, right? And don't, we'll get onto that fucking idiot in a second.
Yes.
Right? But because of him, everyone thinks that they can just create a piece of content and chop it up into loads of mini pieces. And that piece of content was shit in the first place, and now they've just got loads of shitty mini pieces everywhere, all over a load of social channels. Right? They're no better, right? So the concept still stands. If you've got a great piece of content, it's a hilarious podcast, and you've got loads of sound bites from it that are hilarious, chop those sound bites out, because they can exist on a social channel. They might actually drive more listeners, if they're good enough, right? It just matters about the quality of the content. Don't do it for the sake of it. But if you look at a piece of content and you go, this has got multiple things in it, that's really funny. Oh, I like that bit as well. We could probably put that on Instagram because that worked there, or that. Fine. But don't do it for the sake of it just because Gary Vee tells you to do it, right? Gary Vee is a man who, yes, very clever, very, very talented marketer, evidently, we all know his name. But he's also telling you to do things that he was doing on Facebook fucking 2-3 years ago. The man's not telling you what he does now. The man's not telling you that he has a 10-person fucking content team behind him who follow him around with video and chopping it up all for him and sticking it all over social channels that already have massive followings, right? He's telling you, the one-man band who should be concentrating on building the fucking business, to do the same thing as he's doing with a 10-man content team. He also, and if you think he's not full of shit, this is a man who tells you he started from the bottom when he was gifted a £4 million wine business. He didn't start from the bottom. He fucking started with a £4 million wine business, right? He doesn't even know what the fucking bottom is, right?
Context is everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. So.
Okay, that's good. I mean, some Gary Vee fans will be disappointed. I mean, I like some of the things he says, but they're also very black and white, and I found that things generally never are like that. Like, it's not like do this, do that, and then you're gonna be like $5 million in revenue. And
he's telling it. The guy, there's. We all say some good things. We all say some shit things. It's the same thing, same as exactly the same as me, exactly the same as any other market, right? There's you just got to kind of find the nuggets in between all the bullshit. Because marketers are by trade bullshitters, aren't they? They're all manipulators of audiences. You don't think you're lying, right? That's exactly what we do. Manipulating an audience into buying your product. Right?
Yep. What about when you are coming up? Let's say you do 2 posts, maybe 3 posts a month. You don't do them super frequently. How do you pre-test them to make sure they're not shit before you put them out? Do you maybe send it to friends, maybe send it to a colleague, say, you know what, am I there, or it's like, am I just being like flying somewhere in the clouds and think this is good, but actually this is not?
I used to ask a lot of people's opinions. Nowadays it's just pretty much, because we've lived so long now, we know our audience and we know the people we want to work with. It's quite easy to know what's going to work and what's not. I'm getting pretty good at doing that. I know kind of what's going to bang. I can pretty much tell what's going to do better than other things. But I wouldn't pre-test stuff. I just get it out there. And it's, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, move on. It's not a big deal. People get so caught up in it all. But they're forgetting that the only thing that matters is the result. It's not. Don't take it personally. If you don't get any likes, it's not because you're a bad person or you're ugly. You might be, but that's not why. Right. It's because the content was shit. So move on and try something else.
But if you do get 2 likes, don't do it again.
Yeah.
Don't do the same format.
Yeah, unless your audience is only 2 people and they're the only 2 people in the world you can sell to, then you've nailed it.
Yep, that's true. So Dan, you talked a little bit about, so we just started talking about the structure and the fact that you're definitely more on a creative side, you personally. What do you see yourself as the biggest strength? Where do you see yourself as really, really good at versus, other folks who are, let's say, in creative industry or just in marketing in general?
I don't think I'm particularly good at anything, to be honest, but the 2 things that I'd say are probably my strengths. Number 1, ideas. So it's probably one of the only things I've been good at is ideas. I've had, saying that, I've had a lot of shit ideas as well. If I went through all the businesses that have failed that I've had in the past, then you'd also start thinking, I did fucking ideas of shit, mate. What you on about? And then the other thing is knowing audiences and knowing a lot. I've kind of been. I'm not the greatest writer on the planet, and I'm genuinely not even that technically good. I can't even spell most words. My vocabulary is very, very small, mostly swear words. But I can write for so many different industries because I've had so many different businesses and so many shit jobs in the past. That actually, for a 33-year-old guy, my life experience is actually pretty very, 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 very varied.
Mm-hmm.
Done tons and tons of stuff, so I can write for a lot of different industries because I can get in their head. I understand at least a little bit about how they're feeling. I've done a bit of code and I've built apps. I've done it. I can design stuff badly. I've been in recruitment for a little bit and I was shit at that. I've had a recruitment app and that. That phone it's asked. I had a gym. I understand tech. I understand sales. I understand recruitment. I understand a bit of marketing. I understand a bit of design. It's kind of they're kind of my two strengths is the ideas and having an understanding of people that I think a lot of writers, especially some of the younger ones, which sounds really ageist, but it's not. It's just because they don't have the life experience. Probably don't have, and that's why they can't quite get their stuff to bang. It's not good writing. It's because they don't understand the people they're writing for.
It's like a comedian, right? Like who just observing, trying, just being that person who does this odd jobs, and then like, oh yeah, I get it, because like now you just put it down on paper, you write it, and bang, it actually works.
Exactly. It's just and I am a people watcher. Some say creep. Yeah. I say.
Who do you like from the marketers or anybody on the creative side that you just watch their content, consume their content? Is there anybody?
No, that's a joke. My guys are kind of people that are closer to home. I don't really buy into celebrity, or I don't buy into big profiles. It almost annoys me when people are like up here. It's not that I've got something against them. It just winds me up. They've just got loads of sheep licking their ass. But for me, it's people like Paul Mellor. You've obviously met Paul. He's a I'm not big on the whole mentorship thing, but if I have to say I'd a mentor, it would be Paul. He's kind of like the older version of me, is where maybe I'll be in a few years, because he's got a house in France and he lives there for half the time, and he's a very creative bloke, doing some great stuff. People like Mitch Sullivan in recruitment, again, same sort of thing. It's people that are closer to home that I kind of look up to, and that I watch a lot of their stuff and try and learn from. And these are guys that I've watched as I've grown up for the past few years and gone, fucking hell, that's good right off. I like how he's done that. And I've kind of learned off people that are a bit closer to home. And I think people miss that a little bit. Rather than sitting there buying all Gary Vee's books, why don't you have a look around who's around you and who's talented around you, because you can learn off those people. And actually, you can get more of those people, because the chances are you can get in touch with them. Because both Paul and Mitch are my friends. I contact my friends. I don't know whether that's reciprocated. But that's kind of what I'd advise.
Do you believe into like mentorship concept? Of course, you talked about the importance of it. Is that just for you? Hey, like I'm just gonna follow these folks, consume their content, talk to them a couple of times, or hey, I'd love to work with them directly and then collaborate on a few projects because you actually get to learn more, or it's both?
You know what? It's whatever works for you. I'm not a people person, so I don't like working with people, so I try and avoid it. But I do watch them from afar and admire the work that they do and try and learn off them. And now and again get in touch and go for a beer. I've had a couple of heavy nights with both Paul and Mitch. Mitch once slept in my spare room, and my ex-missus at the time was like, "There's an old bloke in our spare room." Mm-hmm. Sorry about the old Mitch. But I think it's just whatever works for you. If you work better having a mentor there that you can reach out to and work with and collaborate with, and you learn by sitting next to someone and watching them work, and that's great. Me personally, I don't. I like the kind of arm's length, at my pace.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you mean.
Do you? I'm going to ask you, because I know you mentioned a lot of failures and a lot of previous businesses you did. Do you have like a favorite one that just gone to hell and you would want to share something that just didn't work, a project or a client that it's entertaining or some, or in that, because I feel like you probably have a lot of these.
He knows around me, and he knows what I'm going to tell you. But I once thought I could build a sports cosmetics business. I mean, that's not even a thing. It's not even a thing. I just took sports and cosmetics and crammed the two together. I'd kind of did boxing and MMA for years and fought. Another thing I was never really good at. And I decided a good idea was to develop organic Vaseline for fighters who didn't want Vaseline to kind of clog the skin and give them spots. These are fighters who walk around with like black eyes all day. Why the fuck would they give a shit about spots, right? Stupid in the first place. Then I thought that I could then make this in my kitchen for cheap. So I got all these ingredients in, and I was stirring this stuff in a pan, like no regulation, no nothing. Pouring it into these pots. The pots look good. I mean, that's they were designed well, and the website was great. And then I made this. It was called War Balm, and I was going around gyms and selling that and putting it in a little box at the side. I think it was in about 5-6 gyms. Never sold any. I think the only people buying online were my mates out of pity. And then I developed a second product called it was a bath soap called Gum Soak. It's really cheesy. And my mate had just got a new bathroom suite installed, and it had like these pink Himalayan salts in it. It dyed his new bath pink, which I've still never paid him back for. But yeah, that was my work to do. I mean, stupid.
Well,
War Balm is locked in the attic. I think there's still boxes of War Balm.
It's all the learning curve, right? Dan, is there any final messages you'd love to leave the audience with, just from, could be career perspective, marketing, copywriting, anything you think I haven't asked you that you wish you did?
I suppose the advice would be, I mean, no one's going to do it anyway because nobody ever does, and this is why there's only a select few ever stand out. But in the words of Paul Mellor, take fucking risks. Take fucking risks with your marketing. Because if you don't, you will blend into the dry, vanilla dog shit that everyone else is doing, and you will struggle to grow a business, especially nowadays when everywhere's saturated, every industry's saturated. You're going to struggle to stand out. So unless you take risks, it's going to be a fucking hard climb. But if you take risks and do weird stuff like we do, you can grow a pretty profitable business in what is it now, Dino? About a year and a half? Like
Speaking of Dan, speaking of weird stuff, where's everybody can find you online and the company that you have?
Well, our new website's been built. It's taking fucking ages, so we've just got a holding page up with a form on now that says fuck. Putting up business, maybe it is. And just on LinkedIn at the minute. We will be growing other channels when we can be asked. But yeah, find us on LinkedIn, and you're probably seeing us, all about the UK. You've seen us all over other social channels. I would be surprised if most people listening to this haven't come across some of our content without knowing it was our content.
I know some of them did for a fact. Dan, it was great to have you. Great to catch up and talk to you.
No problem. Great to speak to you, mate. I love that. It's good.